MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live program. Welcome to the MedBix Webcast. This is Ramana. No, I'm not Albert Einstein. Albert Einsteins are doctors, So I'm not Albert Einstein, but I know something wrong with the healthcare system. That's why I'm doing this podcast. So this podcast is I've been doing almost more than a year. I can't believe it is my passion, and I kept on going for a while. I interviewed more than 200 guests. Can you believe that? So that is going to be. I have a great guest coming up, but I have some a quick announcement, and that I'm going to do present after this. I'm going to talk with our guest. After that, I'm going to present a topic on holograms, and then after that, in the holography in healthcare. That's very interesting topic. And then after that, that we're going to come back and talk a couple of questions to the doctor, our guest. So let me do some quick reminder this weekend, Silicon Valley reminder. That's a Laxmi Nayak. That's what is the guest is going to come. But before that, I'm going to, tonight, this weekend, my dear friend, Dr. Ramesh Jopra, is doing a Festival of Globe in Silicon Valley. That's one of the largest festival in India during Independence Day. I attended a few of them. I'm actively participated for a while. So kind of I'm in the backstage now, but please attend if you are in the Silicon Valley area. It is going to be exciting. Okay. So let me go back to the. So this is Dr. Laxmi Nayak is from Atlanta. She's a holistic medicine doctor. She's, actually her parents are from the neck of my woods, but I'll talk with their Telugu, background. Trying to survive in this holistic healthcare against the onslaught of the corporate medicine, all the hospitals are buying practices, is not easy. We can ask her about that, how to survive in this area. It is not easy. Okay. So really, these are the lone voices we need to support, because it's important, and the integrative medicine is extremely important, is a part of the holistic care. Now, the mainstream rejected for a long time. Now they started accepting it. And then even American Medical Association president is talking about it. So let me, without a further ado, I'm going to bring Dr. Laxmi Nayak. She is practicing in Atlanta area, Alpharetta, particularly Johns Creek, I think. So I have a long-term relationship with Atlanta. A lot of mayors I know for a long time. I involved in the politics a little bit of the Atlanta area, and then I know all the doctors there. And then it is a kind of a new generation of doctors I'm meeting. That's a good thing. Let me bring Dr. Laxmi Nayak. Welcome, Dr. Nayak. Welcome to the MedBix Webcast.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit of your background. I told you you have an integrative medicine practice. Can you give me some of your professional and personal background? Personally, you're Telugu. I said that, but you can give me further expand that.
Yeah. So the practice is Spectrum Integrative Health. You can find us on spectrumihealth.com. I see patients primarily, actually, we moved from Johns Creek. I see patients in Dunwoody, but most of our practice is telemedicine. I'm licensed in Georgia and Tennessee, but I do peer-to-peer consults all over the country. I trained in emergency medicine for many, many years. And then when the pandemic hit, I had a family, to take care of, and I decided to get out of the front lines at the first wave of COVID, and decided to do some medical consulting work. And also, I became very passionate about integrative medicine at that time, because I had gotten really sick with autoimmune disease. And I said, well, let me go back to my roots. Let me go back to my Indian roots and find a more holistic way of healing myself. And by doing that, I did a lot of advanced meditation and yoga practices through Isha Foundation. I really got myself on an autoimmune diet. I added some supplements that are very high dose inflammatory effects on the body. And then I started doing my own lab work because it was such uncharted territory, and started looking at how to fix myself. Um, and you have to fix all components. You have to fix your physical health, right? Hypertension, diabetes, all that's, arthritis. You have to fix your physical health. And then you have to fix your mental health. And then you have to fix the Eastern part, which really emphasizes fixing your energies, right? Mind, body, soul sort of thing. And unless you kind of address all the pillars, true healing doesn't really happen. You will have, if you treat the blood pressure with just blood pressure medication and not really the diet, and not really do the work in terms of trauma healing, in terms of what I'm seeing more and more of now is, psychiatric disbalance, psychiatric illnesses, things like that. You're not going to truly fix that blood pressure. You're putting a Band-Aid on it by giving a medicine, right? And of course, if you have high blood pressure, you need medicine, no doubt. But to really address high blood pressure, you need to kind of do all the things, is all I'm saying. And sort of our approach is that, with a concentration in mostly obesity and, hormonal management. So I focus more on weight loss because it's something that's really impacted my family. And during COVID, what we noticed was also that patients who had very high obesity were much more susceptible to COVID. And it just became a passion over time. And I coach my patients. We do give medicines, but I also do a lot of personal extensive coaching for people looking for that final weight loss and approach, because nothing's worked for them in the past.
Dr. Lon, Mike, I interviewed a doctor, Tamayo Cervera from Silicon Valley.
No.
One of the things, he's a ER doctor. What he said to me, I recently published an article in LinkedIn. It
Mhm.
was very interesting. As a ER doctor, most of the patients he saw in the ER room, some of the patients at least, or not the physical problem, there is something loneliness. One older patient is keep coming back to the room. He felt that that's one of the things is being lonely. That's a loneliness became a condition for him. That's what he said. I think the holistic way approaching your doctors understand the holistic approach of the process. So you're your doctor, so you understand the
Yeah.
holistic. Explain that, what is a functional medicine, what is a holistic medicine. Can you expand on that one a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a lot of really good points, right? So ER is really good for acute care medicine. You're having a heart attack, you're having a stroke, you're in a car accident, gunshot. It's the place you want to be. You have a team of professionals, acute care nurses, respiratory therapists, everyone to stabilize and take care of you. So it's a great place to be. Now, those patients are showing up there because, hey, you're not just showing up for loneliness. It's actually really a condition. They've done a lot of longevity studies on it. And believe it or not, the number one cause, one of the highest risk factors for death, and this is worse than smoking. You wouldn't believe it. Worse than smoking and worse than being sedentary and not active. Number one is loneliness. It's a very, very high risk for cardiac disease and Alzheimer's and dementia and a lot of different markers. So it is actually a real thing. Now, I'm not going to say that insurance companies are going to cover that as a code and reimburse you. Patient came in with loneliness. But what I'm trying to say is that it's a real thing, and that people are deeply lonely and disconnected. And in a world where there's internet, we're supposed to be connected to the whole world through the internet and media, but we're so isolated at the same time. And it's the irony of the technological age. It was meant to connect us, but it's also disconnected us completely. And so how do we improve connection? And when they studied areas like the blue zones with the highest levels of longevity in the world, these people lived in communities. They lived, in India, for example, we lived in joint families for a long time, right? And and in these blue zones, they lived in communities. They shared food. They shared, grandparents lived in the family for years. And it was a communal way of living, which we no longer do. We live in these gigantic houses all alone. And I think there was some study done, or someone, I can't remember where, but it said, if everyone lived like an American in these large homes by themselves, you would need like 370 planets or something. Because, if you look all
Huh.
over the world, we don't live in such large square footage homes. And so it's a real condition. And so now that I'm not doing ER, the holistic way is really to look at the person's mental health, their spiritual health. Mental health is very different than spiritual health. Mental health is obviously your thoughts, your experience of the world, all of that. And then spiritual health is, what is your meaning of life, your purpose for your life, why you're living? People need to feel that as well. It's a different element. And that is important as well, to connect with people on that, as well as their diet and all the medicines and all that stuff. But I like to address sort of all aspects. We don't do it all in the first visit. We do it obviously multiple visits. And, but unless you address all of that, you don't get true healing happening. So yeah, holistic is sort of approaching, mind, body, soul, and spiritual being soul as well as mental.
I met Vivek Murthy here, Dr. Vivek Murthy. He wrote a book on loneliness, actually.
Okay.
How dangerous it is. It's almost like it is just becoming a bigger problem. It's a serious problem around the world because technology is creating this. Another aspect of this is a technology created a problem, and we, Silicon Valley, created that problem. But we have to, that's why you have some techniques that you incorporated in your practice. Inner engineering, you said that by
Yes.
Sadhguru. I also met Sadhguru one time.
Oh,
So tell
wonderful.
me a little bit about your how the Sadhguru's practice of Isha Foundation. What is the Isha the inner engineering technique is on is a breathing technique if I remember, but you can expand on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a meditation process that's taught. It's an energetic based process that's taught by Isha Foundation and Isha Foundation teachers that are trained to teach this technique. And it's transmitted by, Sadhguru, who has this ancient knowledge. And what the technique is specifically, it's hard to discuss, but it's based on yogic asanas, breath work, and a combination, and the way they combine it. It's a very powerful technique for 21 minutes that if you do it every single day, it really kind of realigns your energies and your body in such a way that it creates a sense of pleasantness, joy, stability within a person if they continue to practice and do the practice. So I found huge gains in doing that and learning the technique from the foundation. People come with various different spiritual backgrounds and other techniques they've tried. And so if that helps you, great. For me specifically, this process really helped me to sort of get clarity on my life, to, it kind of propelled my interest in integrative medicine after meeting Sadhguru and learning inner engineering from him, because, he looks at healing from a different perspective. He looks at healing as an energy disbalance that's occurring in the body. Disease is a dis-ease in the system, and that's why you're getting manifestation of physical disease. And so he's sort of really motivated me to really sharpen my skills in integrative and continue sort of learning about it.
It's a great thing you're adopting, but unfortunately, insurance companies don't pay for these kind of things. And how do you survive in this kind of a onslaught of this kind of a game of insurance hide and seek game with insurance companies?
I think, the way we do it, or I do it specifically, we have other practitioners in the practice. We have an Ayurveda doctor. We have a naturopath who knows hormones, and we have a dietitian. So we have a good team of people. But the way we also do it is we expand our services. We do business consulting for integrative practices. We work with other doctors in other states that don't know how to manage integrative cases, and they will send me some cases, and we do peer-to-peer consults because I'm not licensed in, let's say, Wisconsin, and somebody from Wisconsin will call. And I can speak to the patient's doctor. I cannot speak to the patient because I'm not licensed in Wisconsin, but you can legally do peer-to-peer consults, meaning talk to the patient's doctor directly. So we will get that. We've expanded our services to have more of a reach. So it's not just in the state of Georgia and Tennessee that we get a lot of consults. We get them from all over the US, and we do peer-to-peer consults all over the US. So we've expanded our services, and it's a big problem.
The,
Insurance reimbursements are declining. Physicians are burning out. I think 100,000 doctors plus exited in 2021. There's going to be more healthcare people exiting. It's not just physicians, it's also PAs and NPs. They're also, a lot of them are exiting. So burnout is real. If you look at cash models, it's interesting. You have to really get the numbers right, because 60 to 70% of Americans cannot afford their copay or deductibles. And so, if you charge cash, who's going to pay for you? Unless you really figure out your model well. So there's that piece, that if you charge cash, who's going to pay for you? And medical debt is, one of the main cause of bankruptcy in the United States, with basically hospitals surprise billing patients, despite the law that was passed in January, regulatory wise. And so it's a tough landscape. It's a really tough landscape. And we have to constantly, figure out our, numbers and methods, and, how do we scale? How do we reach out? How do we expand our services? Yet, being fair to the patient at the same time. But if they do our integrative approach,
you did a
then
financial. Go ahead.
yeah. No, we have a business consultant on,
Yeah, no, you did a financial models very well. You can master kind of financial models. That's important. And also creating a network of people around the country. It helps you that creating that expanding the network and
yeah.
joining the network and together, kind of similar minded people. The another thing is you said that physicians are one of the highest rate of suicides among
Yes.
compared to the general population.
Yep.
Physicians are committing suicide in large numbers when compared to the general populations. Not large number, but percentage wise at least. And the healthcare onslaught of this mental health is a big problem right now. One of the pharmaceuticals came up with this, and a lot of these drugs really did not effectively work. They work, they don't work, and eventually they get worse. In fact, one of the things in the hope, that is the long term hope, was that I did a lot of programs on psilocybin actually in the fractal medicine. Psilocybin is one of the effective ways. A lot of in fact, it came from physics background. A lot of physicists, the World Science Festival did a program, 1 hour program. A physicist, Brian Greene, did that program on the psilocybin program. It was then they put up actually police officers. They put them through psilocybin program for the depression for the police officers. They were really supporting this idea of administering one dosage. John Hopkins did that, the study on the. So, what do you think of this kind of expanding mental health treatment into not only inner engineering, but Sadhguru, that kind of treatment, incorporating some of these plant-based medicines? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, they have a huge value for sure. You have to be really careful depending on who takes it. So in the United States, for example, it's legal to give ketamine for recalcitrant depression. If the patient has failed 3 medications for depression, you can give ketamine as a therapy, and it's legal. It's prescribed by doctors, sublingual, meaning through the mouth, as well as IV if they need it, depending on the technique. Ketamine is plant medicine, sort of, way of doing plant medicine legally in the United States. Now, psilocybin itself is in phase 3 trials for a lot of different conditions, because they're seeing a huge benefit compared to SSRIs, medications like Prozac, Lexapro, things like that. So if you qualify, I will most likely refer to, a team of psychiatrists that I trust that know integrative medicine. And if you qualify, we do that recommendation for either ketamine, or if they want to go outside the United States, where it is medically licensed in countries like Costa Rica. We do have centers that we collaborate with in these countries, that if you are a candidate, where we see the most benefit is addiction therapy, addiction to alcoholism, narcotics, things like that. We see great benefit with plant medicine for that. We also see great benefit in mood disorders like depression, and advanced depression that's not responding to medications. But not everyone is a candidate. I don't do it as loosely. I do it after strict consideration of their mental conditions. So, for example, somebody who has things like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, who's on multiple different medications, is not a good candidate for plant medicine. It must be done very cautiously. Patients who are candidates for plant medicine, they still need, it's such an intense process that they may need an integration specialist after they come out of plant medicine. I don't practice plant medicine in the United States because of regulatory issues, but we are doing a retreat where we're collaborating with Dr. Andrea Pennington, who's out of France, and uh, Dr. John Jacob Mubarak, who is a protege of Michael Beckwith. So these guys are, sort of top of the line for plant medicine retreats and psilocybin stuff. And we're doing a retreat probably in December or March. You're welcome to reach out with questions. I'm just doing the network sort of collaboration and, sending it out to my network of people, physicians and, other people, other physicians in the United States that are dealing with burnout. So I do think it's deeply helpful for trauma healing. Physicians have a lot of PTSD from all the stuff they see, the medical diagnoses, doing surgeries, on call, working 80 to 100 hours a week. I mean, it's just not physically sustainable. And, I lost a very good friend to suicide, Dr. Lorna Breen, and homage to her. She was an ER doc at the height of the pandemic in New York. She was one of the best. Yeah. And President Biden just passed a law. I believe it was not this January, last January. It's called the Lorna Breen Act. And what that does is if you're a doctor with depression and you are licensed in the state of, let's say North Carolina, the Lorna Breen Act essentially states that you cannot discriminate against the doctor if they put depression in the licensure paperwork and things like that. You can't discriminate against them. And what's amazing is I'm licensed in Tennessee. I got a letter from the Tennessee Medical Board like 2 days ago, where now the Tennessee Medical Board, you don't have to reveal your name. If you have depression as a doctor or mental health condition, you can go to the board. They have free services, everything set up for you. You don't even have to say your name. And it's a full support system now for doctors and healthcare providers who are burning out, thinking of suicide. There are some very good physicians that are supporting. I definitely do some coaching, but in terms of the suicide prevention for physicians, there's Dr. Pamela Wibble out of California doing great work in physician suicide. So there is a team of us, and we have coaches in Georgia, physician coaches that we, refer healthcare people to that are thinking of suicide because it's so catastrophic. Over 400 doctors kill themselves every single year. That is astronomical. It's double the regular population. And some people say, well, everyone's, killing themselves with what's happening today. But really the three risk populations are doctors, are Army vets that have significant PTSD, right? And the American farmer. These are the three people committing suicide at the highest rates in the country, is the American farmer.
Really?
It is. And so for that, really doing a mind-body practice, I'm just giving inner engineering as an example. It doesn't have to be that, but a mind-body practice that is rooted for you, as well as creating. And I help coach for physicians who are trying to kind of redefine their life. Because medicine was so much of their identity for so long, and I went through burnout myself. So redefining their life, as well as plant medicine, maybe plus minus, can really help in the healing process. But I don't like to blanket it, just like in medicine. There's a time and a place and, a reason for giving the plant medicine or suggesting it. I don't do it blanketly. I, sort of really delve deep into their life and figure out, is this the right fit or not?
I'm in Silicon Valley. I created a little bit of program on virtual reality VR side of it. So just one of the problem of mental depression, at least mental relaxation side of it, you could do that. I interviewed several doctors actually. Sophia Cole, one of them, and then I interviewed Paul Deshant. These are the two people were actively involved in the physician burnout area, and quite a bit of people that I interviewed on my podcast. But people like you were doing this job in the East Coast is really fantastic. That is not an easy thing. surviving in this kind of a uh, onslaught of healthcare corporate war, plus the patient's compliance, the about the mental illnesses, and this is growing up. It is you're the hope of people like you are the hope for the healthcare system in our country. There is another hope is coming up. I'm going to present that right now.
Okay.
That is, after that I come back and ask you about your company Spectrum Health a little bit. So let me present. You're going to watch along with me. This
Okay.
I'm going to present this topic. It is another treatment is maybe in the future. Another treatment is going to be, that's a fog SV. Okay. That's, let me put it side on the side. Both of us, Doctor, me and yes. So both we are watching, Lakshmi and me. Lakshmi is the name of the word of goddess, my American friends. So, there is in Tupac Shakur is a rap artist, and Whitney Houston is R&B singer. Both passed away. Tupac Shakur, Tupac, I think I pronounced right, is a hologram appeared in the Coachella Festival right here in California in 2012. It made a sensation at the time in Coachella Valley Festival. That was a hologram, he appeared as a hologram, hologram. One way, my accent is still working out, I hope. Then I used to meet Whitney Houston in Atlanta, actually. She used to, when we reached Carlton, then I used to go and meet them, her husband and her, when their house was flooded. So actually, Whitney Houston, after she passed away, there was a European company started a tour. They started planning a tour for Whitney Houston holographic tour of the around the world, hologram tour of Whitney Houston. Actually, you can tell the difference. They were saying people reviews are so good that they said that they actually seeing Whitney Houston. So so hologram, but the that was actually they started it just before the pandemic, and then during the pandemic they took it out, that process. I don't know the status of the tour, but that is a great idea they came back with the hologram. I'm going to talk about hologram, how it works. Just a basic idea of hologram is a three distinct properties hologram has. If you see a picture of Whitney Houston or Tupac Shakur, you don't see them in the real. If you see a picture of that, it looks like this: dots, white and black dots. That is so. It's a three distinct properties hologram has. Very bizarre properties. One property is, I can tell you, is that first property is that if you see the Whitney Houston on the screen, that's a zeros and ones stored in the zeros and ones. As you know, with the computer, it all works on the zeros and ones. But in the hologram, it is not stored as a zeros and one. It is stored as a patterns. It is a pattern. The integrate is a patterns. Black and the interference patterns. It stores as an interference pattern. The advantage of that is you can store a large amount of data in that interference patterns that I'm going to talk about a little bit, advance a little bit more. But the bizarre property, the second property is, if you take a light, put a light, if you that's the second property is that it shows, if you put a light on it, it produces a 2D image, produces 3D image. It is not a 3D reconstruction of heart. Echocardiogram. I used to do ultrasound echocardiograms in our office where I used to do the mobile diagnostics. At that time, it is not. We used to do 3D reconstruction of the heart, but that is not. This is not the same. 3D reconstruction is that a Fourier series. What it does is take a two-dimension missing dimension. It produces through Fourier series a mathematical technique. It produces the three-dimensional. This is not. It actually kept stores all three dimensions in the interference pattern through that black and white dots. It does. That is a bizarre property as a hologram has. The third property it has, the very bizarre, is if you take a shine a light and then any part of it, it doesn't need to be the whole picture, any small part, if you put a shine a light, put a laser beam on it, it produces the entire image. That's a strange thing. Every part contains the whole. So any small part you take, put a shiny light on it, it produces the entire image of the Whitney Houston. That is a, you don't have to be any part. You don't have to be the entire image. You just show any part of it. Slowly, it produces the entire image. That's a kind of bizarre property. So this a little bit of, I don't want to go into too much into this one, but is basically holography is a physics kind of experiment, physics thing. It is a device. You take a reference frame and then take another beam, and then you interference create interference pattern and produces it. You don't see the object. In fact, you see indirectly. You see the indirectly see the object. You don't see the object directly. That is a so there's interference patterns produces through this device. That's a physics part of it. So in 1980, I came across a book. When I came to this country, one of the book I wrote, I was fascinated by this Michael Talbot. His name is Michael Talbot. He was living in San Francisco. He was he was born in 1953. He wrote a book, Holographic Universe. He doesn't have any scientific background, but he produced it. He really gave up one of the beautiful insights into the future of science and medicine. In fact, he really thought about it quite a bit, and really, without any background, he was one of the extraordinary visionary of a great communicator of science and medicine, in my view. So, what he did in his book, he explains a very simple way how hologram works. If you take a picture of the hologram, like a driver's license is a hologram, you see all the times. If you cut in half, it doesn't the picture is not divided into two halves. It actually becomes smaller. If you cut in half, it becomes much smaller. Eventually you can cut in all the way to the smallest. That is the strange part of the hologram, is that holographic pictures, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller when you cut it. So they take the last part. That what it means, it has the every part contains all the information about the bigger picture. So eventually, if the suppose the world is ended, and then you have the smaller portion of the part of the holographic rose, you found it. There's rose, and you found a somewhere you can reproduce the entire. Only a question of retrieval, but it's all the information contained in the smallest part. You can go to the atomic level even. Is that is that is always this is one of the speculation in the is that possible universe, maybe electron, if you cut into universe as a hologram, if you cut into small pieces into coming all the way to the electron levels of electron, does it contain all the information about the universe itself? That is itself is a very mysterious way of thinking.
Actually, it's not very, new. It was defined 15,000 years ago by Shiva, and it was written that he
Correct.
had said that the entire universe can be contained in the mustard seed. And so
Yes,
so
you're right.
that's very true in the yogic philosophy. It's only the Western I mean, these are quantum physicists, scientists trying to go back and trying to understand that thinking, which yogic science has already defined 15,000 years ago. So we're working backwards, because what is research? It's research. You're researching something that's already been done. So it's, in the yogic literature, it's already been defined as such. It's the scientists that are now trying to, with Einstein, E equals MC squared, Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And you have all these scientists now trying to go backwards, trying to figure it out, which yogic science had already figured out 15,000 years ago. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Lakshmi, you're absolutely right. I understand a lot of physics. I'm a physicist. I have a master's in physics.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I understand these things through actually this Indian mythology. My mother used to
Yeah.
drag me to all the
Yeah.
Indian harikathas and all those plays, mythological plays. My mother used to drag me to the place. I used to learn all these things. And now, when I studied the physics, it's like replaying all this, researching, replaying the whole process. You're absolutely right. So these are two doctors, the two scientists. I can tell you, quantum physicist David Bohm. David Bohm is the student of the Albert Einstein. He was in Princeton. What he was actually unfortunate. I'll tell you about his story in a second. The second, he was the second. He's a neurosurgeon from Stanford. Is a Carl Pibram. These two scientists in the book Holographic Universe. Michael Talbot talks about both of them. In the David Bohm was at the time McCarthy era. They were kicking him out because they thought that he has a communist affiliation. If you see Oppenheimer movie, I strongly recommend to see the movie Oppenheimer's. He was censored through this because they thought he has some inclination towards the communist regime. They just allegations that they did. They did the same thing with the David bomb because he's Jewish, and they did that. In fact, so you moved to England. In fact, he moved to England. I will talk to you about that in a second. Then neurosurgeon Carl Pribram, as a, both have some kind of a strange problem. They're two different people, but they got problems that their problems brought them together. I tell you what that problem is. One is called a measurement problem and a trauma patient problem. What is a measurement problem? Measurement problem is it is an observer and observer observed. So there is a strange relationship between the observer and observed in the physics, the quantum physics conundrum it is. So when you see electron, you cannot see until you observe the electron. You cannot ask what he's doing. We don't know what is there, even if it is there. The reality comes to life to you when you observe it. Observation creates the reality in the quantum physics conundrum. That is a big conundrum. That doesn't make sense in physics. For them, physics is all black and white. Why it is just you as a conscious person creating a reality itself? That's a big no-no in the physics. Um, 20 minutes. This one is all 15 minutes. So this is the so the quantum physics says that this conundrum of quantum physics is that you can jump in anytime, Lakshmi, anytime. So quantum physics is that creates the observer reality. It is important. You don't see Mike. So that's why one of the things is that he wants to solve the problem. That's why he met Jiddu Krishnamurti, another philosopher from Andhra Pradesh, where I'm from, and Lakshmi's parents are from. So there's Jiddu Krishnamurti is from Tirupati. He created so that he, he spoke a lot about he was introduced to Krishnamurti in England, and then he really came up with the idea of this maybe thought itself. There is a universal consciousness, there is a thought. So everything is that universal consciousness, and then he created a mathematical structure through that. It's called implicate and explicate order. Is like one mind is universal consciousness, is implicate order, explicate order is thought and separation. They separate them together. That is
So
what the mathematical structure came back with the David Bohm. And then Rumi says that you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop. That is a concept of hologram itself. So yit from bit is that John Wheeler, all the physicists came to the point, is that Rumi's point is that maybe everything we contain, all the universal information, everything a part contains the whole, is the bottom line of that concept. So that concept, the trauma patient concept is, if the patient got into the accident or trauma in a there, a partial brain is removed, then what he found out is if they don't remember parts of the alphabets. If they remember entire alphabets together. So he has some kind of a strange kind of understanding of the brain. He has a kind of confusion about the brain. Trauma patient problem is that what he decided, each and every neuron has all the memories. Every neuron carries all the memories. Everything is there. So that's the only way. Every part contains the whole. That every neuron contains the every memory, entire memory. That's why you can reconstruct the memory. You give question of retrieval itself. That's what they said. So that's if the brain, another problem he has, Carl Bribram, the neurosurgeon has, is the problem he has. If it is a brain is a computer, this is the problem. 250 million gigabytes. You need information to store all the life information. 250 million gigabytes. There's no way that storage is we are there is no way you can afford to do that in the computers.
so
400 lifetimes.
so the I know, I mean, I see the point of what you're saying. The limitation is always going to be the intellect, because that's what Jiddu Krishnamurti was. He was a brilliant, brilliant philosopher, but he was still constrained by his intellect, because after him there was no actual process, right? So a lot of times you'll have intellectual masters like, you know, gurus right, that will pass their knowledge on to people because they know they will die. Their body is going to age and die. And so, what's left to give to people so they can continue the process of self realization and go beyond? People like Rumi was a mystic. So, the reason he can make a statement like that is because he's not going through the intellect, he's not going through science and theory and deduction and evidence based. He's getting to that, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in a drop. If I'm misquoting him, forgive me. But he's coming to that experience of life because he's a mystic. He's gotten to that state either through his poetry or his mysticism and his meditations and, things that he's done. He's not a scientist, Rumi. Um, Same thing with Sadhguru. So there's a limitation to the intellect because it is 95% operating from a space of trauma or from a space of karmic memory or from your childhood or from society's impressions, or, the world is as, you see the world as you are, not the way it is.
Yeah,
So,
you're right.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
So to experience the states that you're talking about scientifically, we needed masters like Buddha and Sadhguru to take us to those states and to see things beyond what the intellect can reach. That's why psilocybin and plant medicine, it kills the conscious mind and takes it away because you can't have those experiences because you're operating, you meaning in us in general, that we're operating from 95% of the time from our intellect. And so it will be limited. It
I'm
will
in
be
Sil-
limited.
I'm in Silicon Valley. They need computers back. I need to talk about computers a little bit. That's why I was telling you the frame rate. If they simulate any brain, that's what they need. Information about that is a 560 megapixels, 150 frames per second is not
Sure.
possible. That's what I'm trying to talk about. That you're absolutely right. There is a That's what the David Bohm said, that a thought itself creates impure. The universal conscious mind is a impurity comes out of the thought, the universal conscious mind. He provided a
Yeah,
mathematical structure, even though it is. But one of the things is that what is a great thing about this kind of a directive process is that it produces amazing technologies. At least it may not be entirely describe something, but if we can bring it closer to that process. That's why brain. That's what David Bohm and then the Carl Pribram, the neurosurgeon, and the quantum physicists agreed upon. Brain could be hologram. That's why you can be holograms can storage capacities are very high, and then it can retrieve the memory. Every neuron has all the memory, so every part contains the whole. That is the reason brain has the as a could be hologram. That's what they
sure.
said. Is the tongue is there is another area is coming up. Maybe Lakshmi knows more about than this me. It's called embryo containing information of the whole organism. Every cell has all the information of the entire info. That is one of the new biology, new emerging science coming up, medicine coming up. It is a stem cell is basically in that, based on that. Here acupuncture, for example, University of San Francisco, they did a acupuncture. You see that they did the way they do acupuncture is a holographic picture. If every part of the ear they project into the human body. Is of
Sure.
some parts of the ear is a leg, some part of the face, those kind of things.
So
Do you want?
acupuncture originally comes from yoga.
Okay,
It
very good.
originally comes from yoga. So does Tai Chi, so does Qigong. When you look at the origins of it, it comes originally from yoga. And it's sort of, I mean, you're right. You kind of have to marry the technology with the inner experience, with the mysticism, and you'll maybe get the right combination because you can't outpace AI. It's here to stay, right? Artificial intelligence is here to stay, and it will potentially take over knowledge because our brain is limited, right? There's only so much I can memorize in a day in terms of knowledge. But there's a dimension that's beyond knowledge that's AI potentially can't touch. It will expand, and it's already in those territories where, obviously everyone's afraid their jobs are going to go away, and it's there to stay. And its computational abilities is explosive in every field. And so it becomes even that much more important that we do things like mindfulness and meditation and access those inner dimensions if we are to survive in this new world order of, things that are coming, climate change and isolation and complex disease and other things, it's much more important now than ever to access the inner dimension through techniques that are powerful and, that work.
Absolutely. In the randomizer trial in the San Francisco, they did that acupuncture. If you treat the ear, it can treat the pains in the body. That's a very strange kind of. It was a randomizer trial and is approved. Actually, is a peer-reviewed study. That's interesting. That's what the acupuncture, holography, medical imaging, radical improvement is going to be in the future. Diagnosis and treatment. I used to be in the radiology business. No screen required. Efficient, effective learning, capacity of storing the images in hologram is much more higher, way higher. So that is the future of the medicine is going to be
That's
holographic
great.
imaging.
That's great. Good to know. I'm
Yes.
not as familiar with holographic diagnosis. Um, the
Yeah.
most we get out of the conventional system is probably thermography. But acupuncture is just based on the yogic nadi system. We have 100, 14 chakras and 72,000 nadis and pathways, which acupuncture occurred much after that. And so the science is well known, if you access certain points in the body, that you will begin to change and shift the energies of the person. So yes, for pain, anxiety, things like that, acupuncture works beautifully, and it has significant benefits.
Do you offer acupuncture in your practice?
I don't, but we do refer to about two Chinese traditional herbalists that have PhDs in acupuncture from China that I specifically refer people to, and discuss cases with. Because in the new world, what I'm seeing is diseases are more complex. They're tougher to treat. We have to mix the Western. The Western medicine has a lot of good medications with a lot of research backed up to it. So we do medicines, of course. That's what I'm trained in, Western medicine. But I do believe that Eastern medicine can add to the toolbox we already have in really wonderful ways. And so bringing both together, and that's why I call the practice spectrum integrative health, because spectrum, because I have a son on the autism spectrum, and he was my motivation to start healing and healing myself and the family. And so it's spectrum because of my son, and integrative because I believed in both worlds. How do you marry both worlds and make it work for that patient? And that's how the term I came up with. I know it's a little bit generic, but it spoke to me, and that's what we called it. And we're slowly growing with some great people on board,
Yeah.
and hope we continue to be out there.
You're doing a great job. Holography therapy, they found out Alzheimer's and dementia in 2017. A magazine, Frontiers in Aging and Neuroscience, 2019 came out. That
That's great.
hologram treatment, very strange combination of somehow it affects the brain because one of the my as a physicist, what I think about is that maybe the brain may be thinking like a hologram, and then when they see holograms, they respond very well. That is one of the things is that they improves the memory and cognitive functions of the older people by seeing these holographic images of the roses. Actually, that's what they said. It's very interesting combination. Is hologram could be future treatment for the dementia and Alzheimer's area, but next level, this is what the Indian yogas and sadhus they're talking about. This experiment, actually, this device, this is called seeing the ghost. You can see what they do is a quantum entanglement. They use a strange kind of a relationship between the two photons produced in the same source. They're entangled. Entangled quantum entanglement is even they are separated from billions of miles apart. They influence each other without no known communication. There's no known communication. There's no email. There's no phone call. Nothing. They can influence each other like with twins. That is one of the things is quantum entanglement. They use one photon without seeing the object. They can produce the images in the radiology, that really mind blowing way. They can see the level of depth you will not see. Yeah. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate spectrumhealth.com, right? So
It's
you
a
can join
spectrum.
spectrumhealth.com.
It's spectrum. I is in India, I guess, as
Is
spectrumihealth.com.
okay.
And our practice number is on there. Give us a call if we can, help you in any way. Um, I'm really passionate about the holistic approach. And then, I'm sure we'll catch up again. It was really fun being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for attending for us. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
absolutely. Thank you. Be
Thank
well.
you. Yeah, okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye.
So, quantum ghost imaging is one of the very strange concept of physics. It is an optical device. It produces the molecules in cells. And you actually can see the molecules action in cells. That's unbelievable. I tell you how that powerful it is. The holographic imaging of the radical imaging, you can see that it changes the world in the future. Holographic imaging. You see, right now CT scan or MRI, it sees 100 millimeters. Basically, that's what the resolution of the MRI or CT scan. But but in the in the in the um, in these quantum ghost. Thank you, Dr. Gares. A neuroscientist is joining here with us on the side. On the side is a Dr. Rastafa Gares. Right? Yeah, he's joining the presentation. So, quantum ghost imaging is one of the most powerful, out of this world idea. It is that you can produce without seeing it. So you don't have to see the cells, but you can produce the motion in molecular motions in cells. The resolution is so good, 10 nanometers. You can see. I tell you, it looks like just a 1 0, but I tell you the difference is you can watch you can watch football from moon, the actually playing a football players that one with the 10 nanometers with holographic imaging, that powerful resolution. In the future, the treatment of cancer or anything like that is going to be, this is the future of the holography is going to be this. A 10 nanometers, that quantum device can produces that kind of resolution, unbelievable resolution. It produces it. Okay, resolution out of this world. So second thing is that holography in healthcare, there's a lot of companies that are coming up in healthcare in the holography. RealView is one of them. EcoPixel and Zebra, these are the companies just showing up in the holography in healthcare. They are the beginning of this process. You will see for learning and other things they're doing that. It is going to be changing, the game changer. Holography is going to be game changer. So Michael Talbot extended his idea of the hologram to universe may be hologram itself. The universe, maybe we are the. So this idea in 1980s, he wrote that universe may be hologram, a wild idea. He thought about it as a non-scientist. And now that became one of the major theoretical physics major principle is holographic principle, is a Maya, like we can say this is Maya. So we are holograms. Maybe that we are the projections from the surface of the universe. We may be the projections. We may be holograms. So we don't know yet. This holographic principle is a very taking a center stage in the theoretical physics. It is Stephen Hawking and the Argentinian physicist Juan Maldacena. They did that. Actually gave a mathematical structure for this holographic principle. It's not some kind of a wild idea. That the wild idea came from the Michael Talbot thought about it in 1980s. Now Juan Maldacena, that, and then Stephen Hawking, they came back with a mathematical process for that. Is an amazing, in fact. So we may be holograms. So thank you for listening. It's an honor. Thank you, Lakshmi. She has to run with the patients or whatever it is important, but it is a really is hologram is the one. I'm going to talk a couple of minutes with Dr. Rastafa, with him. Let me bring him to the table. Um, so attend all the functions, guys. If you can, that Festival of Globe this weekend, if you can do. Oh yeah. So Rastafa, what do you think of holograms?
It's very interesting. interesting actually. As I look forward and thinking about traumatic brain injury and rehabilitation, we're looking into AR and VR technology for rehabilitation as opposed to using chemical treatments, drugs. So yeah, I'm actually got some reading to do because I didn't even think to the level of actually the actual difference between just the AR and VR technology and the actual holographic technology. So that's going to be a great marriage, and I'm definitely going to check out those companies and look into that for TBI rehabilitation.
Yes. So he is. By the way, I want to mention his name is not Ramana. My name is Ramana. His name is Dr. Rastafa Gedes. He is a PhD in neuroscience. He's a neuroscience. What is a PhD in neuroscience, right?
Yes, neuroscience, neuroanatomy, and neurosurgery.
Neuroanatomy and neuroscience background he has. He has a PhD. But this is all about that the important thing is that we are answering the new future of healthcare. I am my background is that is healthcare. I did a quite a bit of healthcare. I participated every aspect of healthcare, from imaging all the way to the running a HMO and running a healthcare networks. Understood the healthcare, and also, but what the doctors needs to know, a little bit of expanding their horizons, understanding these different fields, mathematics, physics, art, technology. It's essential to understand. Otherwise, if they cannot communicate with the people that they come from that backgrounds. You cannot shock. Mysticism is a great idea, or beyond the consciousness, but there are certain evidence you got to provide. Is not some kind of a hocus focus medicine. They need to provide that kind of a standard of care. You cannot go deviate too much from the standard of care. That is important in that process. For that, you need to the physics and mathematics, art and technology. All of them can help you to learn, and the doctors should expand their ideas. Without without egoism. I think they would be. Otherwise, Silicon Valley will be coming to you. I'm telling you honestly, they are onslaught coming to you. You have to learn. They don't understand medicine, but you can understand math and physics and chemistry a little bit, at least a exposure. That can help you big way, rather than they doing and coaching your area. So that I would suggest you to learn a little bit of all those things. Thank you for watching. It's a truly an honor to talk with Dr. Lakshmi Nayak. And the next, I have one of the amazing guests coming up in the next week. Dr. Samko is a cancer researcher. I'm going to talk, and then the another doctor from nephrologist is coming in the end of this month. The nephrologist from Canada is going to Montreal, Canada, where I went to school. She's going to participate. The September is full of. We're already booked for September. Thank you for all watching. Good night. Thank you, Rastafa, for joining and helping me in this podcast. You are a great addition to helping day to day life for me. Okay, so thank you. And then, thank you all. Good night.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.